I'd like to express my appreciation to the African People's Solidarity Committee for initiating this plenary conference, and especially to congratulate you for that and for the fact that this is the first plenary conference that has occurred subsequent to the 5th Congress of the party, where we actually developed a constitution that mandated this occurrence. I think it's an important development for our party, for our entire movement. So I want to congratulate you, and I also want to express my appreciation to Comrade Chairwoman Penny Hess, not only for the presentation that she has just made, but for the years of devoted commitment and leadership that she has provided to the African People's Solidarity Committee, and for many thousands more who have never heard of her, but have nevertheless been affected by the kinds of work that she has done, and not only in terms of just the struggles that she has led and been involved in, but the books, things that she has written, which obviously takes the message much further than just contact with her as an individual. I do appreciate that, and also I want to express appreciation to those of you in the African People's Solidarity Committee, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, for what you do, for your commitment, for all of you who are part of the Solidarity Movement, part of the base of the Solidarity Movement. Comrade Chairwoman Penny Hess mentioned that for years I have talked about how the members of the African People's Solidarity Committee have not truly appreciated your significance. That is true. Probably not only is that true of the members of the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Uhuru movement, I think it's true in general within our overall movement that there has not been full appreciation for your significance. Because one of the things that's so important about what you do is you have been able to really recognize the validity of the vision that I've had and that I've put forward. You have been able to do something that most people do not do, and that is look beyond their own immediate reality. Because the immediate reality, though being challenged in a very serious way today and making many people do things and think about things they haven't thought about in the past, wouldn't have dared think about in the past. But generally speaking, the reality of imperialism seems to reinforce all of the ideological assumptions about the superiority and permanence of that superiority and place in the world that white people, and I use this term because that's the one that's been introduced to us over a long period of time, but the oppressor nation peoples have. The reality seems to reinforce every ideological assumption that has come out of that. We say white people are superior. We know white people are superior because white people got everything and black people and other people don't have anything. The material reality seems to support what are the ideological assumptions that are out there. But to be able to look beyond that, to be able to accept an understanding of how this thing got started, and then to achieve, to be able to accept a vision of possibilities, because the truth is that too much sugar does cause problems. I don't care how much you like it, right? The truth is that what the oppressor nation has, not only does it come at a price for the oppressed, but there are prices being paid on a daily basis by the oppressor nation itself. Hence, the popularity of Valium. Hence, the ongoing need for security systems all the time, right? Because you can't live after having expropriated value that thrust everybody else into poverty without anything to live. You cannot live comfortably with that as long as those oppressed people exist. You have to do something to keep them from coming, even if they don't know that you took it from them. Even if they don't know that it came as a consequence of this relationship, damn it, they're coming to get it. So, anxiety in your own relationships. Because to live as a consequence of the kind of relationship that the oppressor nation has with the rest of the world creates distortions in your own relationship. It creates certain kinds of assumptions about human behavior and what is right and what is wrong that goes against everything truly that's in the interest of humanity. And that is something that is experienced inside the society itself. It's not an easy thing to be able to accept this possibility of a new world and the absolute need for a new world. I mean, in South Africa, as an example, this was apartheid-based South Africa, that people accepted this apartheid state, which was oppressive, and not only was it oppressive to Africans, but even white people who wanted to do something that would have been considered illicit in these relations, it was oppressive there too. But the white people supported, voted for an ongoing continuation of this, just as the white people in this country did not want to hear any explanation for why, what is it called, 2/11, what was it called, 9/11 happened. I don't care why it happened. And in fact, the immediate response was that I don't want to have a discussion about why they did it. Kill them. Which is extraordinary. I mean, it seems to me that's an extraordinary knee-jerk response. To be alive, to assume that somebody was going around killing 3,000 people at a time and one of them might be me, and I don't want to know why the hell they did it. But that was the knee-jerk response that was there. And of course, something is happening in the world that makes it easier for other people to at least entertain some questions about the legitimacy of the assumptions that's been held on to for such a long period of time. And that's one of the reasons, too, that I want to join in Comrade Penny Hess's statement of appreciation for the veterans of this movement. There's a profound change that's happening in our movement in the African People's Socialist Party that will leave some of us perhaps behind, because it's hard to change some things. You know, you've done them for such a long period of time, sometimes it's just hard to change. But the fact is, and I want to, make this statement because Comrade Penny Hess, she talks about 2010 and its significance, what we've done as a movement, and there's no discussion about where we have come from as a movement. Comrade Penny Hess been here all these years. I met her in Louisville, Kentucky. I remember the very night when she came to the event when I made the presentation in Louisville, Kentucky. I remember when we had the first conference in this city to build the African People's Solidarity Committee. We talk about 17 cities that people have come to this conference from. There were maybe more, probably more, to the founding conference of the African People's Solidarity Committee. I did a 13-hour presentation at that meeting. on dialectical and historical materialism that people still catching up with. I was in 1970, what was it? 76. And we had the conference. People left to go back to their diverse places in Alabama and Maine and New York and Kentucky and Florida and various other places from throughout the country. And before the day was over that they left, the phone began ringing off the hook. People calling, having decided they didn't know what they were getting into when they left last night, right? And a lot of people made a retreat right then. Said, this is, I don't want to do this, right? Because being charitable is one thing. Being somebody on the fringes who can send in a few dollars every now and then is one thing. But to actually join in a movement that is committed to changing this relationship and to changing who we are as human beings is something else altogether different. And a lot of people found themselves unable to make that commitment. I remember the first time when we had this discussion about who was going to lead the African People's Solidarity Committee. Comrade Penny remembers, because Allison said that Penny, I think it was Allison, made the mistake in assuming that Penny has been the chair all along. No. Because the first chair, and we sitting up in a meeting after having called this conference, the first chair that was put forward to lead this organization was a woman who was put forward by another comrade because in her lesbian relationship, she was really good with her partner. And therefore, I'm advancing her as the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee. I couldn't believe that. Nobody in the party believed that. I mean, what did we, hear this and that was the first chair. And it was the beginning of a whole process of struggle, where not only the members of the African People's Solidarity Committee began a process of learning and transformation, but so did we learn some things too because of this. The proximity that we now have, organizational proximity that we now have to these comrades in the North American community. It's one thing to talk about this simply as a purely theoretical question about what the possibilities are, but to have this and to see this reality articulate itself in real life, that was an entirely different and important, learning process for everybody that was involved. And the thing is that the character of the cadre will, in the final analysis, determine the character of the organization itself. I don't care what you have written down on paper, what it is that you're talking about you want to do, but you can't go any further than the character of the cadre that's supposed to make it happen. So you can have all these great ideas that what you're going to do, but if everybody in the organization, that's why is going some other direction, you can't make it happen. That's why it's so important in our movement, such issues as criticism and self-criticism, struggling against liberalism, struggling against adventurism, struggling against, all kinds of superstition and stuff that will keep us from achieving what we have to achieve as human beings in this revolutionary organization. That's why that's such an ongoing process. People say, why are you always engaged in criticism and self-criticism? And that's also because people come from a practice, we come from a situation where the situation is blame and avoid blame. And so we think of criticism and self-criticism in the same way of all the other relationships that we have, blaming and avoiding blame. But it's not about blaming, it's about solving problems, resolving contradictions. And so that kind of thing is why we do it, is because the character of the cadre will determine what it is that we are capable of doing at any given moment. I don't care what we've talked about, and somebody asks, well, why haven't you done this? I might not say it, but the reality is because the cadre